I know. Thanks, Steve. Thanks for the lovely introduction. I appreciate it. Obviously, I'm proud to be able to serve in this administration. It's been a great privilege and a great honor to work on issues that we all care about and to lend my voice and let it amplify yours whenever I can. I also want to thank Steve, as I know all of us do, for all he's done for the Democratic Party, particularly during his tenure. And we want to thank Barbara, too, because she's made great sacrifices. Their family has. And he's done an absolutely tremendous job. As chairman of the DNC, he's done an incredible job of broadening the base, which is something we all thought was extremely important, and, of course, promoting the work of the DNC nationwide. And I know everyone here joins me in wishing you the very best. I think this has been a tough week. Having to say goodbye to Steve and Michael Jordan all at once, it's hard. It's not easy. But Steve, we want to send you off. Bye-bye. Thank you very much. Thank you. And as Steve has already said, we all worked together to defy the pundits' prediction, and we defied history. Thank you all for being a part of that. Thank you so much. It's terrific. We did it because we had a vision for the American people, by the American people, of the American people, and a vision of government that is caring, of values that work for families and that value families, one that is fiscally sound and one that understands the needs of the people. Our vision won the day because we offered substance over style and reason over rhetoric. And all of you helped us achieve that. Thank you again. But as you know, we cannot rest on our laurels. We have to continue to be a strong party and to present united efforts to take back the House and the Senate in 2000. And we can do it. We can do it. And there's one other thing. We need to keep a Democrat in the White House, which leads me to the introduction of our great Vice President, Al Gore.
Thank you very much. Smooth. She just came back from New Hampshire last night and had a great day in New Hampshire yesterday. On behalf of the President and the First Lady, and Tipper and myself, I would like to begin by acknowledging a few other distinguished guests who are here, in addition to those acknowledged by Steve. And I want to add my voice to Tipper's in honoring Steve Grossman's wonderful service as DNC National Chair. Steve, you really have been terrific, and I know that your family is going to be awful glad under the circumstances with the company and everything to get you back, and we know your devotion to your children and your dad and to everything involved. But boy, we really have been privileged to have your service here, and I too want to express my thanks to you and to Carol Pinsky and to Lynn Barrick and to the whole team that you have mentioned here. We're very grateful to you. In addition to those that Steve and Tipper have acknowledged, it's my honor to acknowledge some of the members of the administration who are here. Secretary of Transportation Rodney Slater is here, and we appreciate your presence, Mr. Secretary. And also our former Secretary of Veterans Affairs, Jesse Brown. We're glad to have you here. Good to see you, Mr. Secretary. The outstanding White House Deputy Chief of Staff, Maria Echeveste, is here. And our Communications Director, Ann Lewis, and former Ambassador Elizabeth Bagley and Smith Bagley. Congressman, well, let me put it this way, the once and future indeed next chairman of the House Commerce Committee, John Dingell and Debbie Dingell. To former Governor Ann Richards, one of my great heroines in this country. Distinguished members of the of organized labor who are here: Al Whitehead, president of the International Association of Firefighters, and his colleagues, and Bobby Harnage, president of the American Federation of Government Employees, other labor leaders from the IBEW, AFSCME, the sheet metal workers, and others. People who have helped this administration from the private sector. Les Moonves took on the co-chair duties of this Public Interest Advisory Commission on Digital TV. I wanted to thank him and Lynn. I wanted to acknowledge the outstanding Democratic Party chair from Indiana, Joe Andrew. And Joe, I'd like you to stand so they can get a good look at what a party chair in Indiana is like. And of course, as others have mentioned, Sheryl Crow, that was a wonderful, wonderful performance, and we feel very privileged to have heard it. And finally, although others have said and others will say kind words, I want to add my personal thanks to Robert Altman and Linda Carter. This is a great event, and we appreciate what you all have done, and your friends being here. It really is a really enjoyable event, and Linda, I appreciate you insisting that the design of the event be one that's so enjoyable and so much fun. And to be able to kick off what I know will be a remarkable year for the Democratic Party in such fine fashion, with such good friends, at such an enjoyable event, is truly a privilege. And the truth is, ladies and gentlemen, that as we begin 1999, as we stand at the dawn of a new century, America's oldest political party is by far its strongest. Steve mentioned that in the midterm elections we won the greatest victory for a 6-year administration since 1822, and of course the principal reason is the agenda that we have been pursuing under the leadership of the President and under the leadership of our leaders in the House and Senate, Dick Gephardt and Tom Daschle and their colleagues in both chambers. But another reason why we did so well is that the other party's agenda was closely related to the one they had back in 1822. And Democrats, by contrast, are in the mainstream of 1999 and 2000. We've done away with the false choices of the past, and we have governed from a new and higher wisdom. Today, we have not only balanced the budget for the first time in a generation, we are now projected to have the largest budget surplus in the history of the United States of America. Today, not only have we cut the size of government dramatically, but we have relied on the wisdom of frontline employees to streamline and reinvent government, making it a force for progress, and using the savings to put 100,000 community police officers on the streets and put 100,000 teachers in our classrooms. We're making progress in many areas. We not only have the cleanest environment in a generation, we also have the strongest economy. And incidentally, under President Clinton's leadership, just 6 days ago, we broke the all-time record. We are now in the midst of the longest and strongest peacetime economic expansion in the entire history of the United States of America. An all-time record. It is not an accident that we're seeing progress on every front. We're seeing long-needed changes in healing the divisions that have beset us for more than 2 centuries, in making sure that some parts of our nation that have been left behind during past periods of progress now are able to participate, so that the inequities are narrowing and the unfairness is receding. We are seizing the future. And ladies and gentlemen, make no mistake about it, there is one person at the heart of all this progress that the United States of America is enjoying today, and that is our President, Bill Clinton. His leadership is good for the United States of America, and Mr. President, we thank you for leading us toward the 21st century. And after all that progress, he still spends every waking moment trying to make this nation even better, dealing with the challenges of aging, addressing the entitlement issues of Social Security and Medicare, protecting our green spaces and open lands, raising standards in our school, equipping our nation for the information age by rallying our country at long last to do what's necessary to make our schools what they should be. And as he will tell us on Tuesday night, the state of our union is about to become far stronger. Now, I can't tell you what pride I feel in being a part of this administration. And it is not only because of the leadership offered by our President. It is also because of the inspiring vision and tireless work and leadership of our First Lady, Hillary Rodham Clinton. Tipper and I have worked very closely with Mrs. Clinton for 6 years now. We know Hillary's passion for this country. We know her clear vision. We know her caring heart. I have felt great pride as she has taken on many challenges here in the United States and also around the world. And as Americans, I know we are all proud when others in other continents, especially women and children, look to our First Lady as a model for what they hope that their daughters can be in the future, for what they hope their families can achieve in the future. America is very lucky to have her as our First Lady. Tipper and I are very lucky to have her as a friend. And ladies and gentlemen, I am proud to present to you now our First Lady, Hillary Rodham Clinton.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Al, for that introduction and for your leadership and your commitment to issues that are not only important today, but important for the future and for our children. It's a great pleasure to be here at this first event of 1999 for the DNC and to be back in this beautiful art gallery. I'm grateful to the Corcoran, to David Levy, its director, and to the staff that make this facility available to us. And I don't know that I've ever seen it look better, and I attribute that to Linda. And I thank her for making it really shine tonight. There are so many people to thank, and I want to just briefly mention a few who've already been mentioned. I want to thank Sheryl Crow for being here tonight, but I want to thank her for something else. I first met her about 3 years ago when she accompanied me to Bosnia. And that was shortly after United States troops had, in accordance with the Dayton Accords, been sent to Bosnia. And we weren't sure exactly what we would find when we arrived, but I had been asked to go, and I was looking forward to it. I was a little apprehensive. I also knew that I wanted to take with me some people who could help to reassure and tell our troops how much pride we had in them and how much we thought of them. So Sheryl and Sinbad went with me. And we went to Tuzla, where our main military forces were stationed, and we couldn't go off the base by car because the roads were still extremely dangerous. But we were able to put on a performance that Cheryl and Sinbad did, both there for the main forces and also to be helicoptered out over the Bosnian countryside, splitting up and going to various of our camps that were manned by American military personnel. And Cheryl was, as she always is, a real trooper in every sense of the word. And you saw tonight the extent of her talent, but I was thinking about the performance she gave us this evening, and I was thinking about the much more difficult circumstances in which she performed those years ago. And I wanted to thank her, but I also wanted to mention how important that trip was for me in understanding as clearly as I could the importance of American leadership and the importance of the kind of leadership that we've been given because of the Clinton-Gore administration in the last 6 years. And there is much to celebrate. And I think as we gather here at the beginning of this new year, we can be grateful for much that has been done in our country to improve conditions for our own people, but also to demonstrate American values throughout the world. And none of that would have been possible without the support of the political agenda that was really mustered by the DNC under Steve Grossman's leadership. Steve has worked so hard and has been tireless, and I know he's probably pestered many of you countless times, but he has done it with a persistence and a deep sense of paying back to this country, which has given him, as it has given all of us, so much to be grateful for. I'm never with Steve without feeling that he's not only expressing his personal support of the Democratic Party and the president and the vice president, but he's really exemplifying what it means to be a citizen. And I thank you, Steve, for the leadership and the concern you have brought. I, too, want to thank Len Barrick and Lynn for all that you have done to get us back on strong financial footing. I want to thank Carol Penske and her husband David, who couldn't be with us, for her tireless efforts, and all of you who have brought countless hours and sleepless nights to making it possible for the Democratic Party's message to continue to be heard by people throughout our country. Now, I am always very grateful that I have a chance at these events to say a word personally to you who have been longtime supporters of my husband and me and Val and Tipper. And I want to thank those of you who are new to supporting the Democratic Party or supporting this president and vice president. But I don't think I have ever been more appreciative than I have in this last year. The countless words of support, the acts of support, the way that many of you have been there for us day after day, have understood what was really important and the priorities that the president and the vice president and those of us who try to support them have been engaged in, and have really been committed to the larger vision of what my husband started with when he first announced for president, to put our energies and our talents to work for our country. And it has been a personally very moving experience for me to know how much so many of you have cared, and I personally want to thank you for all that you have done. Now, in a funny way, I suppose I could say that I might not be here were it not for Robert Altman. Now, many of you may wonder what that means, and just let me briefly explain. Robert Altman's sister came as a young teacher to my high school when I was a senior. She and another young teacher, she had graduated from Wellesley, the other young teacher had graduated from Smith, were getting their masters in teaching at Northwestern, and they were assigned to my high school. And I really hadn't begun to think about college. Unlike today, when I think it's unfortunate, but it does occur, people start talking to their children about college while they're still going to nursery school. When I was in high school and thinking about it, it was something I knew I'd end up doing, but where and how, none of that was at all clear to me. And Janet Altman and a woman named Karen Falstrom began to talk to me about thinking of different places I could go to college. And because Janet had gone to Wellesley and this other woman had gone to Smith, they began leaving all this propaganda for me to find about these schools that I had never heard of in a place known as the East Coast. And I had no idea what an impact their advice and encouragement would make in my life, but it certainly did. And so for me to be here today and to be at an event that is sponsored by and has been pulled together so beautifully by Robert and Linda is a great treat for me. Linda and I first met, along with Robert and Bill, when we were privileged to be house guests together at the governor's mansion in Kentucky during the Kentucky Derby. And we had a lot of fun that weekend as well. So I'm very appreciative to the Altmans for making this evening possible, for bringing so many of their friends here, and to have the honor of introducing someone who has been a stalwart to marry Wonder Woman and to enable her to continue to flourish in so many personal as well as professional ways. They are wonderful citizens, whether it's Linda's crusade to promote finding a cure for cancer or Robert's many efforts behind the scenes on behalf of many good causes. So it gives me a lot of pleasure in a small way to introduce Janet's brother, our host this evening, Robert Altman.
Thank you, and on behalf of my sister, we thank you. This is the first time that Linda and I have agreed to serve as DNC chairs, though as a native Washingtonian and as a practicing lawyer here for many years, I guess I've been immersed in politics and government for most of my life. But as Linda said, and I think said very well, it is a privilege for us to serve as the event chairs here this evening, because we are gathered tonight to celebrate the prediction-defying November election results and to honor what, by any objective measure, is one of the most successful administrations in the history of this country. Yet, as we gather, it's difficult to recall another time when political discourse has been as bitterly partisan, as extremist, and, well, as mean-spirited as it is today. And the resulting divisiveness has produced a complete split between Washington and the American people. While the president is attacked on Capitol Hill, his job approval ratings are sky high. And I think this situation confirms the wisdom of that wag who once described the city of Washington as a small federal enclave bordered on all sides by reality. That description has never been more apt. It seems to frustrate pundits that during this period of partisan challenge, America's admiration for the president and for the First Lady has not diminished, it has grown. Yet I suggest this is not surprising as we see the president answer his attackers with a quiet dignity, an abiding faith, and a firm determination not to be distracted from doing his job serving the American people, a job he is doing extraordinarily well. And make no mistake, the American people are optimistic about their future and about this economy, and they are rock solid in their support of the president. And as for our Republican friends, well, they seem to believe, indeed they candidly acknowledge their belief, that Americans will simply forget in 2 years how they are ignoring the important issues facing this country in order to pursue a partisan agenda. Well, counting on a loss of memory by the voters strikes me as an unusual challenge, particularly for a party whose national symbol is the elephant. I feel confident that in 2 years we will be gathering again after the election for another celebration, the election of President Al Gore. And Democratic control of the House and the Senate. And Mr. Dingell, I agree with the Vice President. You will always be Chairman Dingell to us, and that will be a reality in 2 years. Yet while the present challenge to this White House continues, I submit this is the time to stand up and be counted, to rally behind the President, to rally behind the administration, and to stand behind this party. And that is why Linda and I are pleased to be a part of this event, and we thank you for your generous and your unwavering support. For most of my professional career, I was blessed to have been taught the ways of Washington by another of our great Democrats, Clark Clifford, who recently passed away. Mr. Clifford was privileged to serve as an advisor to 4 other Democratic presidents, and from time to time, he would comment on the nature of those men and the unique qualities they brought to the presidency. He spoke of President Truman, his rise from humble circumstance, and his unshakable confidence. He spoke of President Kennedy, his youthful energy, and his grace, particularly his grace under pressure. He talked of President Johnson, who was a hard-driving, brilliant politician who was determined to address the needs of less fortunate members of our society. And he talked of President Carter, another former governor from a southern state, and his honest desire to improve people's lives. The admirable qualities that Mr. Clifford attributed to all these presidents are evident in President Clinton, whose remarkable record of success and progress here and abroad will measure up to the achievements of our finest presidents. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my privilege to introduce to you the President of the United States.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Robert left his cards up here, so I'm going to take them home and put them in my keepsake album here. If he ever gets mad at me, I'll call him on the phone and read his speech back to him. I want to thank all of you for being here and for being there, for Hillary, for me, for Alan Tipper, for our administration over all these last years, and especially during the last year. I'm going to miss Steve Grossman and his team at the DNC. I thank Lynn Barrick. I thank Carol Pinsky. This is her last event. And I thank Steve. They took the helm of a party that was troubled and made it far from troubled in 2 years. I want to thank all the staff members who have been here. I have in some ways the most sympathy for this group of people because they have to hear me give the same speech over and over and over again, you know. And I want to thank the members of the administration who are here, and Congressman Dingell and Debbie, thank you for being here. Governor Ann Richards, who made some of my campaign stops in the '98 campaign even more memorable than normal. I want to say a special word of thanks, as Hillary did, to Sheryl Crow, who is a good friend, a good Democrat, and an unbelievable artist, and she's getting better every single year. Unbelievable. Hillary said that we met Robert and Linda in 1983, actually just before they got married at the Kentucky Derby. It was an amazing event. I'd never been before and actually had never gotten a chance to go back since. But it was the last year in office of Governor John Y. Brown. And all of you will remember how sort of staid and laid back John Y. Brown is. He had Al Hurt playing at the breakfast before my old Kentucky home. And all I remember about the Kentucky Derby is that I was perfectly sure what horse would win. And the only person in this vast party John Y. Brown had assembled who would bet on the horse I recommended was Linda Carter. And I have been for them ever since. Whatever the issue is, I have always loved it. And the horse won by 3 lengths. So they, I really admire them both for so many reasons. It's not easy to do this, you know, to sort of get out front, get your friends here. Some of you came all the way across the country to be here because they asked you. And I appreciate that, and I hope the weather's not so bad you can't get back. Those of us who are in Washington don't want anybody to be trapped here who doesn't want to be here. We all came here voluntarily, but you know, we want you to be able to leave and come and go as you please. Finally, let me say, you can't imagine, you know, Al and Tipper and Hillary and I, we've done a lot of campaigning together. We did in '92, we did in '96. We do a few events together now, even though our lives are considerably busier and often with conflicting schedules. But I think that one of the real secrets of whatever success that we've had for the American people has been that we have really tried to be a team, we've tried to be friends, we've tried to be family, and we've tried to be frank with each other. And each person has made a unique contribution. And then we tried to model that in dealing with the Democratic Party and the House and the Senate groups and all of our friends around the country that are involved in whatever initiative we're involved in. It seems to me that's the way people ought to live, but it turns out it's a fairly effective way to do business. And, you know, I think it's fair to say that Tipper Gore has given the mental health issue more visibility than it's ever had on the national stage, and it will have an enduring positive impact. I think it's clear to anybody who has looked at it that whatever even my harshest critics would have to say, that the Vice President has been far and away, not even close, the most influential person in his position over more issues, achieving more for the American people than anyone who has ever held this position in the entire history of the Republic. And I think not only that, as you will hear me say increasingly in the months ahead, and any mistakes we made were my fault. And of course, you know, I don't even know how to talk about what I believe Hillary has meant to the success of our endeavors. She's been on every continent. She's gone to places most people in her position don't go. both in America and beyond our borders, in the little villages in Africa and Asia and Latin America, in the Indian subcontinent, to talk to women and their children, especially their daughters, about what their lives can be and what we should do to help them. She's gone all over America to save the Star-Spangled Banner and Thomas Edison's lab and Harriet Tubman's home and the national treasures that we believe we should hold close to our hearts as we move toward the millennium. And just 1,000 other things. And she has done it under circumstances that I think are probably more difficult than anyone who's ever done it before. I love her for it, but our country should love her for it as well. It's been remarkable. Now, you know, I keep hearing that, that books and books and books will be written on how we won seats in the midterm election in 1998. Since the Civil War, the President's Party has only won midterm elections under Theodore and Franklin Roosevelt, each in their first midterm election, and as you heard, not since 1822 in the 6th year. And I can save you a lot of reading. It is not complicated. We showed up for work every day, and we remembered who we were working for. And we wanted power not to just have it and exercise it against anybody, but just to use it for a little while to advance the American people's dreams. It is not complicated. And we had people like you who helped us raise enough money that even though we were outspent by $100 million, we at least had enough to get our message out. And we said, look, we work for you. Here's where our country is. Here's where we're going. Here's what we'd like to do. It was not complicated. We're proud to be members of our party, but we believe progress should take precedence over partisanship. We believe unity should take precedence over division. We believe political power should be used with purpose to advance the lives of people only. And if you give us a little help, we will, now that the country is working again, and the economy is perhaps the best in history, and the welfare rolls are the lowest in 29 years, and the crime rate's the lowest in 28 years, and we've got the lowest peacetime unemployment since 1957, now that the country is working again, we would like to look to the long-term challenges of America. We would like to deal with the aging of America by saving Social Security and Medicare and thinking about other things so that we baby boomers don't have to burden our children and our grandchildren when we retire. We would like to look to the flowering of our children, the largest and most diverse group of school children we've ever had, and make sure that every one of them has a chance to have a world-class education. We would like to look to the strength of our families and make sure that they have health care that is adequate, affordable, and quality health care, which is why we want this Patients' Bill of Rights. We would like to continue to grow the economy under increasingly competitive and difficult conditions. We would like to remain the world's strongest force for peace and freedom and prosperity. And we think we have the obligation to do that, which is what our efforts in the Middle East and Northern Ireland and Bosnia and Kosovo and other places in the world are all about. And if that's what you want us to do, we're ready to try harder, but we need a little help. That's what we said. Now, on Tuesday night, I will be given the great honor that comes to the President once a year to report on the State of the Union, and then amplify in greater detail what this agenda means and what I hope we can accomplish in a bipartisan manner in the Congress in the coming years. But when you go home tonight and you ask yourself why you came and what you believe in, I hope, and whether it was worth your time and your money, I hope you will be proud of what has happened in these last 6 years. But I hope you'll also be determined to make the most of the days ahead. This 6-year thing is arbitrary. It gets in people's minds. gets in administration's mind. They think, oh, well, I'm 75% through. I think there's still 25% of the time left. It's just a question of how you look at it. And in the rhythm of life, it seems to me that you get hired to show up every day. And I get the same daily wage now I did on the first day I was president, so it seems to me I ought to put in the same level of effort. But if I could say in a more serious vein in closing, there are many reasons that I am a member of this party, besides the fact that my granddaddy would turn over in his grave if I weren't. And we could talk about that all night, but on the eve of the new millennium, when we're living in a new world economy and an increasingly new world society, when you're communicating with each other in different ways and people are living and working in different ways, when there are vast prospects for us coming together with different kinds of people, and also new threats because of our increasing openness and interconnection with the rest of the world, there are three basic things I'd like for you to remember because I hope it says what we're about. One is, we honestly believe that no person is better than any other, and that every child in this country, without regard to race or religion or station in life or circumstance, ought to have the chance to live up to his or her God-given abilities. And the role of government should be to create the conditions and give them the tools and give their parents the support so that they have a chance to do it. Two is, we honestly believe that none of those individuals can make the most of their lives alone, and that our membership in a community will enrich our own lives as it enriches others. Today was Martin Luther King's 70th birthday. Some of the most brilliant things he ever said were about the importance of community, about how no matter how brilliant you are, no matter how strong you are, no matter how rich you are, no matter how whatever you are, your life can only take on full meaning and texture if you are part of a community. And that's why I have worked so hard against all the divisions of the country to make us one America. And number three is that the essence of our democracy is that the people rule. And those of us who are elected are literally representative of them. Whether in the representative branch of Congress or in the executive branch of the president, the power we exercise every day is not ours. We exercise it on behalf of the country as a whole. And its only legitimate purpose is to advance all those little children out there and living up to their God-given abilities, and advance our efforts to come together as one American, and to advance our efforts to meet the challenges and seize the opportunities of our time. Our administration has been about that. Every day has been a joy. Even the bad days have been an honor. And I believe America is better off. And Tuesday night, I'm going to ask the country to go back to work because we've still got a lot to do. Thank you, and God bless you.